Hi everybody. Jason introduced me. We met in Zurich. He actually helped us to get funded by our local government, which was great because he was one of the jurors. And today I'm going to tell you the story of how a free demo founded our game. So we already had a bit of Kickstarter and community topics right here, and this is actually exactly what this talk is about. So we had 2 Kickstarters now, released 1 game, and the experiences have been so different, and I'm just going to show you a bit on what I've learned, that there's really not one way to do it for a game, but even just with the 2 games we have done, things have been completely different. So, short intro of mine, my name is Philomena Schwab, I come from Zurich, born and raised. This is the school that I attended. It's the Zurich University of the Arts. We there have game design studies. I did my bachelor there. And in my bachelor, I basically made a prototype for a game. And then I did also my master's there. And my master's had more of a marketing focus. So my master's topic was running a Kickstarter and building a community for the game that I had made a prototype of in the bachelor's course. And if you're interested in that specific topic, building up a community for your very first game, I had 0 industry connections, whatever. I just came out of university and then I tried to basically sell this game. If you're interested in that, I gave a talk at last year's GDC. The talk is called Power of the Pack, Success via Community-Based Development. It's on YouTube and in the GDC Vault if you're interested in checking that out. And so, shortly after I finished my master's at the university, we started our own indie studio, which is called Stray Fawn Studio. We are now 5 people. This is my co-founder, Micha, and the situation was basically like this. He had a game that he's been working on for 4 years, on his weekends, whatever, and I had a game that I had recently run a Kickstarter for as my bachelor thesis and with a little bit of money. And so we said we're just going to finish both our games. That was the deal. The games have totally different communities, so that was a very interesting thing. So for us, it was never an option to make one game and then make a sequel of it right away, but we would have to release 2 games with completely different audiences. That was the starting point. So the first game was this one. Has anyone of you actually seen this at some point? Yay! Happy to see that. So it's called a niche genetic survival game. It's a game about population genetics. Basically, it looks like this. You have a group of animals, and they have like a genetic code. This is the information that they hold within their bodies that defines what eye color, fur pattern, if they have horns, what kind of legs they have, whatever. And when you mate your animals, you always get like a new mix from your parents, and you actually learn a little bit how genetics work with dominant recessive genes. And then over time, as you breed your species, you end up with different results, such as this very strong toxic clan in the swamp, or maybe you have a hunter clan up in the mountains. So that was basically the plan with this game. We did a Kickstarter for it back in 2016. It raised $74,000, and so far it has sold around 95,000 copies. It had its full launch last September, and before that it was in early access for about a year. So this is actually what our company is currently doing to stay alive. And this is our second game, which is called Nimbatus, the Space Drone Constructor. So this is the game of my business partner that he has been working on for 3 or 4 years. This game has been everything. This game has been 3D, this game has been 2D, this game has been like ego perspective, this game has been everything. So this has been his hobby project, baby, for 4 years, and he's gone wild with it. And so since this is what we will be mostly talking about, I'm going to show you a quick trailer. Trailer that we used for the Kickstarter. So you can see it's a game about iterating your building process. And even though the games have like very, very different topics like animal breeding and space drones, in terms of designing them, they're actually quite similar problems with procedural generation, different biomes, different worlds. So from that perspective, we could use a lot of the knowledge we had gained from the first title. And we also decided, based on these first two games, that we would continue to make simulation games, because it seems that at least currently, it's our favorite genre, and at least currently it seems to be quite easy to sell simulation games compared to, let's say, story-based adventure games, because you can have this iterative process of showing the game, adding new things, the game is interesting again, so you can really keep the lifetime up a lot longer. Maybe in 5 years this will be different and we'll have to switch genres again. Also, from these first two games, we decided that our strategy, our company strategy, would be whenever we come up with an idea, the idea has to prove itself with a Kickstarter. Then we do an early access launch, and then the game can stay in early access as long as we have fun developing it and as long as it's able to fund itself. But for us, a game concept always needs to prove itself multiple times so that we actually can invest more money, because if we have just one failed game, we will be gone. So we have to really look at the risk and do it like step by step. So, for the Nimbatus Kickstarter, the story looked like this. We had delayed the niche release 2 times because we didn't finish, we didn't manage to bring in all the Kickstarter stuff that we promised, and we kept working on it. And we had already announced the Nimbatus Kickstarter launch. We had already set up some dates with Kickstarter, when we would be in the newsletter, when we would be Project of the Day. So it would have been a pretty big problem to actually change the Kickstarter date, and we said, okay, let's try it anyways. We had hoped that we had maybe half a year in between that we could use to build up community, that we could like build up the social media things, because we hadn't really done so much because we were very busy with finishing the first game. And so the situation was, we had 1 month of preparing the Kickstarter with no community whatsoever, because, we had the niche community, but maybe only a 4th or a 6th of the people from the first game are actually kind of interested in the second game. So it was almost like starting from zero, and the goal was to raise 20,000 so we could keep developing a little bit until the early access version was done. And so we came up with this idea. We thought, okay, we have nobody who is actually waiting for this Kickstarter, because with the first Kickstarter, I had spent like a year building up the community and getting people ready for the Kickstarter. So we had like 200 or 300 people we knew would go to back the game. We had been to several events, had gathered some newsletter subscribers, so we had a newsletter in place, and with Nimbatus we had nothing. So we had to come up with an idea on how to actually manage to get this Kickstarter going within this 1 month. So the strategy we decided to go with is this one. Basically just, we make a free demo, we put all our efforts in this month into actually putting a nice demo together, and we're just going to advertise this demo like crazy. We're not going to talk about the Kickstarter much, we're just going to advertise the demo. And then, basically like this, we saw this approach from the guys over at, who made Cluster Truck. Help me out. Genau, Landfall, thanks. We saw this approach over at Landfall Games, that basically, if people want to download your free demo, they have to sign up for your newsletter. So they basically get the free demo as a little gift as for signing up to your newsletter. So we basically just set up this form. Yeah, if you want to have the demo, please sign up here. This also subscribes you to our newsletter. And then we had a MailChimp in place. There's plenty of other tools you can also use, but we had MailChimp. And over the course of this Kickstarter, we gathered around 55,000 newsletter people. So I'm going to tell you a bit of how that actually worked. And also, we stated here clearly, yeah, you can unsubscribe as soon as you downloaded the game and don't want to be on the newsletter, but only around 10% of the people did that. And also, we are asked a lot if, did we really make a special link? So if you sign up, you basically get an automated mail with the download, and people were asking if we made a special link for everyone who signed up. No, we just had Nimbatus /super secret demo and then you could download it, and people were, but isn't this going to spread? And then people are just using the link, but it didn't really spread. Almost all of the downloads matched pretty well with the number of the newsletter subscribers. So this seems to be something that works. Also worked very well for landfall games. And then when you downloaded the demo, you were not only in the newsletter, but in the demo there was this huge pop-up that whenever you opened the demo, there was like, we are now on Kickstarter. Later on, we also added a countdown, so we could be sure that everybody who downloaded the demo at least saw that we are currently doing a Kickstarter. So now that we had the system in place, we basically had to spread this demo as far as we could. And it's a lot easier to market a free demo for something than marketing a Kickstarter, because when you market a Kickstarter, people know, they want something from me and I get it, and I get something back later. And with a free demo, you can just, here's a free demo, and people like free demos. So one thing we did was, as you have probably all done here, YouTube and Twitch outreach. The classic approach, I just wrote 100 emails, and then about 10 or 20 of those people actually played the game because of carefully picking who actually likes this game and who doesn't, which is cool, but still 100 carefully written emails. This took me maybe, 2 days or so to actually look up all the people and actually write all these mails. And I want to ask, who of you has actually used Keymailer? Okay, not so many people yet, because this is the tool of my dreams. It's not been around for too long. It looks like this. So basically, when you have a game on Steam, when you have set up the Steam page, you automatically have a Keymailer address. So it could be that a million subscriber YouTuber has actually reached out to you and you just don't know, because you don't get any notification and you have these requests sitting there and you don't know. So if you have a Steam page, please look at your Keymailer, because once with the first game we had like a 6 million YouTuber who had sent us a request and I had not seen it for 3 months, which is a shame. She luckily then did a video anyways. So do that anyways. Check out your Keymailer thing if you have some requests. But also you can upgrade your Keymailer to a paid version, which costs like 160 a month. So we only do that like when we launch a game or when we're running a Kickstarter, just for this specific month. And then you can use their search filter. So you can look who played, Spore, and who likes simulation games. And then you get a list of all the people sorted by subscriber numbers who have actually played it. You can select 100 people at the same time. You can write a customized message, say, hey, I saw that you played Spore. Maybe you would be interested in our game. You upload a few Steam keys, click, and you have sent out 100 specialized requests at once. So with this tool, I spent maybe an afternoon or so, sent out 2,000 keys, and this resulted in about 186 YouTube videos and 14 Twitch streams. So very effective. Whenever we have used the tool, it has certainly made back its money like 10 times from what we got out of it. These are the 3 biggest ones that played the game or played the demo version of the game during the Kickstarter. And they also told their viewers to download the demo, so that was very useful. 2 of them actually came from Keymailer, and 1 of them was a direct contact. And the second thing we put out a lot of our energy into is social news pages. All of us are using Facebook and Twitter and whatever, and I'm seeing more and more people also looking to these sites, especially Reddit has become very common. But my favorite of these 3 by far is actually Imgur. So during the Kickstarter, we did 10 posts on Imgur. Every single one of them was on the front page, and that resulted in a total of 1.5 million views. And this is what this actually looks like. The posts were all very different. Sometimes it was just one cool GIF and a little bit of text. Sometimes it was like our background story as developers and how we started our studio. And the most successful one, you actually see a picture of down there, was a post of how we did our landscape generation. I would have never expected that the site that is actually mostly used for cute cat GIFs is interested in how we do our terrain generation. But they were very interested in it. This was like by far the most successful post, so It seems those people are really interested in this kind of things. Some Imager tips and tricks. So on Imager, you basically have 5 hashtags you can use, 5 categories. And if you do posts there, I would always recommend gaming and creativity. They have always helped us. And for the other 3, we usually just look at what tags are currently popular and which are kind of fitting to our game, and then we pick the top 3 that kind of fit with it. And another thing, Imager is really a little bit allergic to promotional posts. I mean, if you have posted on Reddit, you certainly know that when you do self-promotion, Reddit can be quite critical. Imager is a bit less critical. You always have the people that are like, why are you not buying an ad, whatever, but it's a bit less than on Reddit. And when you do a post, you basically see how many points you get. So people can upvote or downvote your post just like on Reddit. And you can then click on your points, and then you see like the ratio of how many up and down votes you got. And usually if this red thing is big, that means your post was too promotional. So next time try to make it a bit less promotional. Direct links to your Steam page and whatever are usually a bit more on the red side of things. But with a free demo, we never have a problem to keep it like at this rate. Okay, so that was Imager. I highly recommend trying Imager to everyone, though with our other game, with the animal game, we have a lot more problem to actually get to the front page. I've tried several times, and it's way more difficult, because on Imager you really need to have some GIFs that stand out. If you don't have a GIF that stands out, Imager is not for you. And for Nimbazus, we have a lot of those physically moving, glowy stuff, so that seems to work well as a GIF. Now I have a little story to tell about Reddit. Who of you has actually used Reddit? Yeah, probably you will feel me here. So this was the graph of our Kickstarter, and you can see this biggest spike here was the day where we got the top spot on all the things on Reddit. And the moment that happened, we were up there like 15 minutes or so, and that brought in like $5,000 just being 15 minutes on the top spot of Reddit for the Kickstarter. This was also the moment when we were funded, and then something really bad happened. So the story basically went like this. We asked a friend if she could give us a shout out on our gaming, and she said she made a post. So yeah, my friends are now on Kickstarter with their game, blah blah blah, and we had the trailer, and then it went up like crazy, and then a lot of people reported bug abuse, and the moderators took it down, and then we contacted them and said like, hey, why is our post suddenly gone? And they were like, yeah, we got a lot of people reporting bot abuse. So basically that we bought a bot that is upvoting our post, which we didn't. And then they said they were going to investigate it, and a few hours later, they put it back up and said, okay, nothing was wrong with your post, it's all fine, it's back up. But of course, a few hours later, and it hasn't gotten any upvotes because it was taken down. It was down within a minute or so. That was okay. That was not so bad. I mean, $5,000, we cannot complain. But then we had people from Reddit harass us for multiple weeks. So we had people, especially our friend who did the post for us, there were people following her around on Reddit for about 2 weeks, and whenever she posted something, they were like, oh, did you buy upvotes for this again? Or insulted her in different ways, and it was 2 very hard weeks for her. And they also came over to other social media platforms of ours, like they jumped in on Twitter or on Imager and insulted us that we did stuff wrong and whatever. And 2 or 3 weeks after this post, we said, okay, it's the end of the Kickstarter, let's try and make another post on our gaming. And within minutes, we had so many downvotes because people were kind of super pissed at something we hadn't done. So yeah, Reddit can be very, very effective, but Reddit is also kind of a dangerous thing because people seem to like getting angry on Reddit. So the smaller subreddits are not a problem, really. I mean, we have our space games and whatever we posted in the smaller subreddits, all fine. But our gaming, we're going to think twice on if and how we're going to approach this topic again. Yeah. Well, and the last one that was actually just an experiment. I saw one other dev that did a post that went pretty well on 9gag, and I was like, okay, let's do this too. And this was actually a little bit prior to the Kickstarter. I did a post, which was then not just in the trending, but also in the hot section. And if you get to the hot section, on 9gag, it seems that your traffic will keep coming for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. So 9gag can actually be very effective, but I only managed to get here once, even though I had I had 10 posts. Each of them made it to the front post on Imager. I had here 10 posts and only one made it to the front page of 9gag. So it seems to be a bit harder. And also, your game loses novelty here pretty quickly, it seems. So if you haven't shown your game yet on 9gag and it looks cool in a GIF, maybe wait until the one day you really want the attention and don't do posts prior to that. But I don't really know. Maybe you'll need to ask some other people too what their experiences are, but I wasn't expecting it at all. And so far we have only tried the gaming subcategory. And one important thing that absolutely sucks about 9gag is that you cannot not post links. And you cannot really tag people or anything. So the traffic, we were very surprised that actually so many wish lists came from this, even though there was no link to the Steam page or whatever. So a lot of people must have seen it if even so many people then resulted in wish lists. Or 9gag people are just super used to not having a link and then look for it themselves. Don't know. And then a classical thing, we use Twitter quite often, and we also we don't just use it as a marketing tool, but we actually use it to test our GIFs. So we do Screenshot Saturday, Indie Dev Hour, you know it all. We basically do that a little bit to generate some reach, but mostly to see which of our GIFs are actually the best ones, so we can pick which ones we're going to put in the header when we do Reddit or 9gag or Imager post. And also we often run little competitions where people have to post their own GIFs and can win alpha keys. And this actually saves me a lot of work because they make really cool GIFs and then I can just use those instead of having to produce them by myself. We have constantly some GIF contests also running in the forums, and the main goal is to give people a way to actually get the game for free if they don't have a lot of money, and also to generate content that I can then use on other social news, social media sites. In terms of press, not a lot of stuff has happened for us. We have had, for both the Kickstarters and for the releases, we had some articles from Rock Paper Shotgun, one from Kotaku, 2 from PC Gamer, but for some reason for our games, press never seems to work out. Even though we have articles, they don't generate a lot of income. We don't sell a lot of copies because of them. And I've seen many people talk about this, and it seems to be that the reviewer really has to be super into what you're doing there, and he has to love this game like crazy. And maybe we have just not found reviewers that love our games like crazy, or I don't know. We'll continue with our press approaches, but maybe at some point I'm also just going to hire a press agency, see if that helps, because I think that this is the weakest point in our marketing currently. So, if I sum this up a little bit, so for the Kickstarter approach, it basically worked like this. You have all these cool sites here where you can post your stuff. We tried to bring them in to signing up to the newspaper, to the newsletter, which we then had available in the MailChimp. And then continuously, whenever we had a small update of the demo or whenever we had a new stretch goal, we send out a mail to all of those people. Was a little bit expensive because MailChimp can be quite a bit expensive, but it was worth it. And then we basically just, in those emails, every time we told people, please back us on Kickstarter and please come to our Discord. And this is actually where almost all of our money came in from the Kickstarter. We have heard about Discord before today. Who of you is actually using Discord? Lots of people. I think Discord is currently the easiest way to build up a community for any game developer, because people are on Discord anyways. It's very cool that you can tag everyone and activate everyone at the same time. Like, everyone, this is important, please do it now, and everyone gets a ping. That's super powerful. But also, I'm always a bit afraid that, I mean, Slack was there a few months ago. No, it's not really there anymore. And when Discord is not really there anymore, then all those people are also not really there anymore. So I'm always a bit like, this is the easiest way now, but maybe it won't last so long. But I think anyone at this point should just put up a Discord for their game because it's so easy and effective currently. Also, at one point we had some people in the Discord, we had some people that had already backed us, and then we could start to focus on the people who were already there and see if we could do something with them to actually expand our reach. So we had also done this for the first Kickstarter, community stretch goals. So you can see here like 100 shares on Facebook, 250 retweets, 100 people in the Nimbato subreddit, and so on and so on. And then we promised that if all of these goals were reached, all the backers would get an additional copy of the game, which motivated them a lot to share everything. So that also gave a bit of additional reach, like in the second half of the Kickstarter. And this then resulted in $75,000, which is really funny because it's almost the same sum as the first Kickstarter, even though it was completely different. And I'm still figuring out why this is actually the case, but maybe it's also just a coincidence. If you're interested in having more details of how the Kickstarters went, I wrote a post-mortem for both of them. They are on Strayfon Studio/blog, or you can just go to Gamasutra niche, Gamasutra Nimbatus. There we have basically for all the steps in the campaign, at what point, what article came in, had what impact, and so on. So if you're going to run a Kickstarter, then maybe that's a resource you can use. And since we're talking about Kickstarters anyways, I'm also going to tell you some cool things that we did for the first campaign, which was very different. And for example, this one. So we made a game about population genetics, and we had lots of science pages actually pick it up. So different blogs, different Facebook pages that focused on genetics especially, picked it up and told their readers that there was this Kickstarter. And this was very cool because those are people, they are not going to buy your game when it's on Steam. So when you just launch your game, those people are maybe going to see the article and see, okay, the game is on Steam, but they don't have a Steam account or whatever. It's much more likely that these kind of people have a Kickstarter account and then they come over and back you. And here I see that Kickstarter is actually a thing where you can get money that you cannot get at any point when the game is already out. So especially if you have a game that focuses on a topic that is not too closely related to games, I think it's very useful to run a Kickstarter. Also for the first game, we built up kind of an indie collective about nature and biology related games. So we just reached out to some other developers who had made similar games, set up a web page. It's called Playful Oasis, and everybody just has a profile. Then we set up a Slack channel. Nowadays it would be Discord, and chatted with each other. And we were very lucky that 2 other people from this collective were also running a Kickstarter at the same time as us. So we cross-promoted the hell out of each other. We put each other in all the backer updates. And so we really had a lot of backers that now then actually backed all 3 of the projects. And I think this is something I would like to see more often. I would like to have like a sub-channel for every single type of game there is. Now I would actually like to make one for space games, or I don't know, for multiplayer games, and so on and so on. And another thing we did with the first Kickstarter is trying to reach out to similar communities. So this is actually a children's book series. I have no idea if you know it, but I love it. And Niche is kind of inspired. The first game is kind of inspired by this book series. So I thought I'd just go ahead and reach out to the author of the book series, and she thought it was actually very cool that there was a game inspired by her books. And then she gave us a social media shout out at some point, and another one during the Kickstarter. And this also was quite effective in terms of bringing people in from outside communities. And with the first Kickstarter, we also had a YouTube/Twitch challenge. So we basically just sent them the game, but we also gave them a little task. So if you can play the game, just live stream as you wish, but if you manage to survive 100 days, let's say, for example, in the game, then we will give you 3 Steam keys that you can then give away to your viewers. And then usually YouTubers, when they played the game, they would announce, and in this video I have to survive 100 days, and then I get three free Steam keys to give away. And then usually they didn't manage to survive 100 days because the game is very difficult. And if the challenge would not have been there, they probably would have just stopped playing. But then their viewers were like, but you didn't manage to beat the challenge yet, please try again. And then that resulted usually in 2 or 3 videos until they had finally beaten the challenge before they stopped playing. So I think that's an effective way to actually have one YouTuber make multiple videos of your games. So the next step for our second game for Nimbatus will now be a Steam Early Access launch in September, October. And we have continued to promote the demo version a little bit, not so much as during the Kickstarter, because we also have to finish the game, but a little bit. And so far we are at around 44K wish lists. I don't know if you've heard, but lately Steam has given a rough number that it would be nice if you have around 50,000 wish lists, then you launch the game. Then you are pretty likely to get a featuring. That's some number that is flying around, so that would be something to look into. And also, we continue to build up the newsletter. At some point, some Korean YouTubers picked up the game, and that resulted in a lot of demo downloads, and I have no idea why. But now we totally have to translate it to Korean as soon as possible. And yeah, so while I'm watching over the marketing of those 2 games, and I'm sure you have also heard of the sales funnel thing, right? I started to come up with some different types of people out there and think we are currently in this state of the development, or we are so close to the launch, and what am I actually currently trying to do? So there are, in my opinion, 5 types. There are also other lists with 4 types or 6 types. In my opinion, 5 types of people out there. Top one, this one is unaware of your game, has never seen it. Then the second one is aware, maybe has seen it somewhere, but is not yet super into it. Then you have followers, for example, your Twitter followers or the people in your Discord. You have players, these actually own your game, and you have fans. And now, for Nimbatus, now that we're getting closer to the launch, we're basically doing 2 things as the main focus. One of which is trying to make unaware people become followers so that they wishlist the game or that they're on the newsletter, and trying to become players, become fans. Because we now have 4,000 people that play the game already because of the Kickstarter funding. So we really want to hear their feedback to improve the game. And also we want to turn them into fans so they can help us with the launch. And we have seen what fans can do for your launch with our first launch back in September. And we really tried to show them what it means to earn money for us. So we told them, if we don't manage to sell 50,000 copies within the first month of launch, then there will be no more updates. And they were like, what? Why will there be no more updates? And we're like, yeah, because then we probably won't have the money to actually continue to make the game and to actually survive as a studio. And they were like, oh yeah, you need money to make games, that's right. And they were actually, I mean, sometimes it's just not so obvious to people, and you have to tell them again. And then we set up a little list with stuff they can do to help, like reach out to your favorite Twitch streamer and YouTuber, or share this on Facebook and this on Twitter and this and this and this, like 10 things. And they were very much into it, and they put a lot of effort into fulfilling all the stuff on the list and discussed with each other what they also could do. And so that actually worked out. A lot of big, especially Twitch streamers, only played the game because they had a lot of people tell them to please play this game. So yeah, that's nice. And they managed to reach the goal, and now they're getting more free updates. And now they're not only proud of us, but also proud of themselves, because they are what actually kept the game running. So I think if you reach this point that your people actually understand what it means to you to sell copies, then you're on a good track. So another thing we're doing now is, even though many people have advised us that this is a pretty bad idea, we have started up a forum, because I told you before that Discord is super cool, and we also run Discords, but if Discord is gone, the people are gone. And now we said, yeah, forums are dead, but let's see anyways if we can put one up. And one thing that was very important for us is a feature like Reddit, where you can up and downvote stuff. So you can imagine we had like 5 or 6 channels for both games, like a subreddit for both games, a Twitter for both games, a Facebook for both games, the Steam forum for both games, emails, and people were always like, hey, could you not please add this to the game? And we were like, yeah, this has been suggested like 10 times across all the different platforms. And yeah, and then what we do now is we just send people to the forums. They can post their idea and they can up and downvote the ideas of others. And the top ideas are considered to be implemented in the game. So this made my life a lot easier. And also, you probably know the problem that you have to, whenever you do an update, you have to announce it on all the different platforms, especially if you have multiple games. It takes so much time, and we said, no, the only place where you are now actually going to get all the information is here, and the only place where we are actually around to discuss things with you is here. The only exception is bug reports. If we have a bug report on Twitter, then we're going to listen to the people and talk to them. And otherwise, we usually just say, hey, come to the forums. We are there every day if you want to talk to us. And that actually worked quite well. People started to understand really quick that this is the place where they need to come. We also, like in the Steam forums, we had a little pinned post that they should come here. And now if they want to talk to us, usually they come here. It was pretty hard to get it alive. The forum at the beginning, it was dead for about 2 months. But then we also tried things like running giveaways only in the forums. So come to the forums, leave a comment here, and you have a chance to win a Steam key. And then we just share that giveaway on Twitter. Yeah, come here to the forums, and then you have to sign up for the forums, and then you have an account anyway, so maybe you come back more often. And also when you sign up to the forums, you can then check a box to be automatically included in the newsletter, so it also builds up the newsletter a little bit at the same time. So our efforts currently really are bringing in all the people into the forums. Yeah, I think that's most of the stuff. I recently opened an indie game marketing Discord, because I don't know if you have tried to get some answers about indie marketing in like Facebook groups or whatever. Usually the answers were pretty bad, and so I thought I'd invite some people in and make a Discord. The join requirement is that you have either run a Kickstarter campaign or launched a game, or you're like just super into marketing in general, then we maybe make an exception. So if you're interested in that, or if you have any other questions or would like to hear any feedback on anything, feel free to drop me an email anytime. I'm happy to help. Thank you. Sorry, that was a lot.
Yes? I have a question. Regarding the demo that you did before your Kickstarter, I'm Ken from Massive Damage Games. We did a Kickstarter for Halcyon 6 as well. Yes. We had no demo. I was afraid of putting out, we had like only a combat demo for ourselves, and I was afraid of putting something out that wasn't representative of the full game. So I was curious, like, how representative was the demo of your full game? Was it like a proper vertical slice, or was there any concern about not showing the game in the best light, before money was raised?
Yeah, about putting out the demo, even though we're not sure if it's super representative of the final game. We were also quite afraid that it didn't really represent the final quality of the game too much. We had pretty big discussions within the team if we should do it or if we should not do it. It was kind of a good representation of a vertical slice. There was not so much content in there yet, but you could basically see most of the main features of the game. So yes, but the quality also, especially the polishing level of the game, was really not where we wanted to be at the end. But also we just wrote that down everywhere. So please note, this is pre-alpha, we're going to polish everything, blah, blah, blah. So we then tried to do it anyways.
Thanks.
Second question.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you're talking about using Kickstarter to prove your concept. We've had like a lot of talks about having kind of low-risk spaces to do that, having a wide audience, but at the same time. And one of the things with Kickstarter that is interesting is that do you consider that there is a risk in having a failed Kickstarter, you know, because you can always, if you have a good Kickstarter, it really boosts your reputation as a studio and everything in your projects. But a failed Kickstarter could kind of do it. So do you think there's a risk, and how do you mitigate that risk?
So the question is, if having a failed Kickstarter is a risk for your company reputation. I think, especially if you're looking for publishers, maybe it's not so good to have a failed Kickstarter. All the Kickstarter, or both the Kickstarters we have done, are have a very low amount of funding that we wanted. So the first one was 15,000, the second one was 20,000. We were still afraid that we would not manage it, but it's not such a high goal that you should be, I'm not sure if we would dare to make a $100,000 Kickstarter. But for us, I don't think it would be a big shame if the Kickstarter failed. We would probably just reiterate the campaign and then launch it again maybe 2 or 3 months later. I mean, you can always try it a second or a third time, because then you already have the people from the first time that will probably back again, right? I think for us, having low goals is nice, because then nobody keeps you from overfunding. I see a lot of people that say, yeah, but if we don't put 50,000, then maybe we will get less money. But I've seen so many Kickstarters overfund that if you are sure you will do the game anyways, you could do a Kickstarter with a small amount. I would even if we don't need the money, Kickstarter is such a powerful marketing tool. As long as the Kickstarter finances itself, I think it's worth it.
We're going to use the microphone now, and hopefully things have stabilized so that we can actually hear the question. So I'm going to come back here.
I'm just wondering, when you think about it after all of this, is there some mistakes you think you've made, or pitfalls that now that you went through all this, you would say like most people would actually try and do it, but it's not a good idea to do it? I know you were talking about Reddit, and now they don't like self-promotion, you know, these kind of mistakes that you do it once and you're like, okay, I'm never going to do that again.
So I'm not really sure. After you've done it, you can't really say what could have gone better. But one thing that I don't really like as it is right now is for the Kickstarter, we gave out alpha access as a reward. And with that, we kind of split our community in two, because right now we have the people who have alpha access and the people who don't have alpha access. And there's currently no way to purchase alpha access or whatever. So now we have these two groups, and that makes communication very difficult, because the people that are still playing with the demo version don't want to hear about the alpha stuff. And I think it would have been better to just leave alpha access out and just keep updating the demo version, keep all the people in the loop, have the momentum continuing until the launch. And then when the launch comes, the demo is not updated anymore, because now I feel like we have lost a lot of momentum, because the community was a lot stronger during the Kickstarter when everyone was playing the same version. So that is probably something I wouldn't do again.
There was a question over here before. Someone had their hand up? No, yeah.
So when you launch your early access, at which point in the game development you release it? Like, how close are you to the final product?
So with the first game, we launched the early access version about 4 or 5 months after the Kickstarter, and I think it was too early. The game was really nowhere. There was only like the first level, and maybe you could play it for maybe 2 hours or so without getting bored. And it's a sandbox game, so it depends on the player. But I think we should have waited a bit longer. But at that point, we also had the problem that we were using up the Kickstarter money very fast, and we had to see if the game is actually going to get itself funded to further be developed, and if people could quit their job and keep working on it. So we had to put it out early. But what we did is, with the first early access release, we made it silent. So we just put it on early access, and we didn't send out any press release. We only had the YouTubers that had been playing it already. We informed them that it's now on early access, and we had a few social media announcements, but we really tried to keep it very low profile. And then for the launch, for the real launch, we tried to have the relaunch of the game, basically. And it worked. So the early access sold enough copies to keep us going with the development, but then the full launch was like 5 or 6 times bigger than the early access launch. But I also think this is a bit risky. So now with Nimbatus, we're doing more of a marketing push for the early access launch.
So what's your main goal, if you want, with the early access? Is it to put the game out there so that people see the game, or is it to kind of have a source of income while you're finishing the game?
A bit of both. So if we only wanted to have the feedback, we could like keep it in an alpha state and have people play it on Steam even though it's not released yet. I mean, that's what we're doing now with those special Kickstarter keys. But also our games need to fund their development so that we're not having such a high risk. At some point, if we have a lot of money stocked up, maybe we're not doing it like this anymore, but I think it's currently also a good way to get a lot of feedback to resolve all the technical issues that you have with the game, because you really don't want to have them at launch. So I personally like early access a lot.
Vivian. Make me run. Where is she? Oh my goodness. Like a maze back here.
Thank you. So, hi. We did a similar thing as you when we launched our beta, where we were giving away free Steam keys for email addresses. And we got about 6,000 addresses, so it was pretty successful also. The only issue is that before we did this, our open rate and our click-through rate was pretty high on our mailing list, and now it's dropped a lot because a lot of people signed up just to receive a Steam key. So is there any recommendation of what to do for that? Because we should clean up our list, but we can't just delete people because they're not opening the emails anymore. And is it even something that we should care about, that our open rate dropped because the list did grow?
Are you using MailChimp?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this email list also has a lower open rate than our usual mail list. I think it's like, the usual mail list has like 30-40%, and this one has like, last time I checked, around 18 or so. So yeah, it's a difference. Keymailer sorts out the people that are not really looking at your mails anyways, right? So, or they at least get like a lower ranking. Or do you have, sorry, it's very specific, do you have a monthly subscription? Because when we had this high amount of people, we decided to switch to points. Then you can just buy a bunch of points. We bought points for like $2,500 or so, and now we can send out like 2 or 3 million mails until those are running out, because the monthly subscription fee was getting too expensive for us. So maybe you could consider switching to points. Then you only pay when you send out the email.
But it's more about, I know that it's just about statistics and it maybe doesn't matter so much, but also our open rate was very high, like it was 50-60% at the beginning, and now it's dropped at about 18 to 20 also. So I know it's just statistics, but does it matter? Because, like I said, you have a lot of people, more people in your community, we can send emails out to more people also, or should we actually clean up that list because a lot of those people were just there for free?
I think, so we only use this list with the many people in them for big updates, such as the game is now out on Steam, or stuff like this, where you actually want all the conversion you can. But we added this and this feature recently, we just use the regular newsletter and we don't touch this list at all. So maybe just, or you can like filter them by how many stars they have, and only if they have 3 or more stars, they get all the small updates and something like this.
More questions? Yeah, oh, easy one.
Yeah, I had a question, which was, so on Keymailer you said you sent 2,000 keys out in an afternoon. Why didn't you send more? Like, I know that some people like to filter, but why don't you just spam everybody?
You can. Actually, for the full launch of our game, I sent like 5,000. But I always wanted it to be kind of relevant, because I think if all of us just pester all the YouTubers all the time with all the games, then we are damaging our industry. So when I contact a YouTuber, I actually want it to be at least a little bit relevant. So, for example, the least relevance I did was looking for all the people who played simulation games. You know. I thought that you played simulation games. Close enough for me, here is the key. You played strategy games, here is the key. But you can email to all of them. You can send that out to 20,000 people if you want to take a day to do that. But then the question, of course, is it relevant enough for them that they look at it, or is it worth the time, or is it not? But you can.
More quick.
When using Keymailer, how much time do you spend making sure that the people that you contact have a large enough audience to make it to warrant giving away free keys? Do you assign a value to free keys because it might not lead to a sale later on, or do you just give them away pretty liberally without any concern about that?
Depends on what state the game is in. So, for example, before the game is launched, I only send out keys. Then you also have an embargo, right? You only want them to come out at launch day or a week before launch or whatever. And we have had several problems with smaller YouTubers and Twitch streamers who have not respected our embargoes. So now I'm not giving out keys to anyone below 5,000 subscribers before launch. After launch, I don't care. As long as it's not a scammer and I see the channel is kind of fitting to the game, even if it has 10 subscribers, I don't really care. Also, with the first game, we had a lot of small streamers and YouTubers who, I mean, if you just look at the numbers, this is really not worth the time to even write back, whatever. But they kept on making videos about our game, and they really grew their channel a lot. And now their channel has an audience that is very interested in their game. So I think it's very nice if you can grow with each other. So when the game is out, no, everybody here.
More question? All right. Hold on.
How early in the production do you start building the community? Because it looks like it's a lot of work. You have Twitter and YouTube and a lot of channels. So how early do you decide to put some bandwidth on building that versus producing the game?
Pretty early. So before the Kickstarter, to actually build up the following for the Kickstarter. But also it can be quite a lot of work, and it's also, we very strongly listen to what the community actually wants. So sometimes it also restricts us a bit in what should we add in, what we want to add in, or what they want to add in. The best thing is when they want the same thing as you to be added. So this was actually very often the case with the first game, that the top rated suggestions were always also the stuff we wanted to add anyway, so that was nice. We are now starting a new game, and we're at this point also happy that we can do prototyping without anyone telling us what to do. But as soon as we have like some cool screenshots to show before, maybe 3 months before the Kickstarter, then we start bringing in the people. Maybe we will also bring some people in earlier because we have worked with them before and they give very good feedback. But certainly a few, I would say half a year before launch at least.
Other questions? No? Everyone's good? All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story.